WSTU, it is 9:06, and that means it is time for the Forum with your host, Pat Sacco.
Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Pat.
We passed the midpoint of August.
We've made it.
We've made it. Woo! I was hoping that we'd do that without incident, and so far, I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, you're not going to say anything.
We're without incident.
Okay,
so far.
good.
That's all. Next.
You weren't going to say anything, but you said it.
All right. I want to say good morning to my crew who are getting very anxious about bingo because they're thinking about starting bingo October the 2nd, but they're not going to start on the 9th because I'm taking a little vacation in between there. That's Kay and Sheila and Betty and Maggie and Patricia and Sandy and a whole bunch of other people. We do it till April. It's through April. And then they get mad because they want to continue in the summertime. And I have helpers who go up north. So I said, we just can't do that. But we don't give the money to the church. It goes to something called outreach. Outreach. Wonderful. Nonprofit organizations.
I love it.
Yes, in both counties, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, we're going to have to talk about that. Maybe we'll just earmark your agency for next year.
Oh, that would be
bucks.
wonderful. We are making huge changes in the community and impacting people so that they can stay on the right path. It's awesome.
But things pop up. Oh, that's Stephanie Myers. I'm sorry. And your agency this time is
funny, man. I'm with Life Builders at the Treasure Coast.
I'm kidding, Stephanie, because she goes around and fixes things. You're a mechanic.
Yeah, there you go.
She goes to an agency and fixes it. Moves to the next agency and fixes it. You're a great mechanic.
I've had people accuse me of being a fixer before, yes.
There's a cute joke about that. 3 grandfathers are in the park. One's Jewish, one's Italian, and one's Irish.
Okay.
And the Jewish grandfather says, my grandson, he's a doctor. And the Irish man said, my grandson, he's a lawyer. And the little Italian guy, he says, my grandson, he's a mechanic. Oh, no, first, I'm sorry, let's go back. The first one, the Jewish grandfather said, my grandson's an attorney and a doctor, and he makes $250,000 a year. Yeah. And the Irish said, my grandson's an attorney, he makes $300,000. And the little Italian says, my grandson, he's a mechanic, he makes $500,000. He said, what does he fix? He says he fixes a baseball, he fixes a basketball.
That's great. That's great.
But you're not that kind of fixer.
No, not that kind of fixer. No. You're funny.
But anyway, and what I want to say about Stephanie, she's been on the program before for several other things. We met a long time ago in a nonprofit organization, which you fixed also. You fixed it beautifully.
We as a team decided to do some things a little differently and really made a huge impact.
See, Stephanie is my kind of person because when she has somebody that's working for her or with her, Stephanie does 2 things, and most managers don't. Most managers give you responsibility, but never give people authority. And you give them both.
You have to. You can't do it all.
Say it's your job.
My job is always about developing the people so that they can do their jobs more effectively.
And they feel good about the fact that they have that authority.
It's one of my goals.
Don't come and tell me, I want you to organize it, get it done. Don't come and ask me, is it time for me to do it? Don't come. Just you do it. If you want advice, I'll give you advice.
Absolutely.
If you screw up, I'm all over you.
Yes, but we work together to figure out what the screw up was, and we use it as a learning opportunity. Yeah.
Just like the Japanese do. Yeah. When we had Enron, we found out who did it, got the guy, put him in jail, had all these things, and we sat around and talked about the problem. The Japanese might have the same kind of a problem. The first thing they do is gather everybody together and they fix the problem. Then they seek out the person who created the problem. You know what they do with that person? They don't give them a sword. They retrain them.
Yes, and that's,
because you were such a valuable employee up to this point that you created a problem. Now, how are we going to hire somebody brand new and give them that 10 years of experience?
You know the difference between someone who's successful and someone who isn't? The person who's successful got up and tried it again one more time.
Uh-huh. What was it? The quote from Eastman saying, I've done it 10,000 times wrong. I'm going to find out which the next one is going to be right.
Exactly. And you have to use those as learning opportunities rather than pointing fingers and doing that, because otherwise we don't continue to learn and improve.
In a former life, I did a intensive treatment program, and I had a manual, and I found this beautiful quote from New York Times years ago. And it said, Babe Ruth hit 714 home runs, but he struck out 1,330 times. There's an author by the name of John Creasy who got, I don't know how many rejections of a book before he published 300. those kinds of things. And it
Absolutely.
says you can't succeed until you keep trying,
Mhm.
So there's the negative part, but there's the learning curve, as you said. Exactly.
And that sets the whole tone for the organization as well. And if you don't have good morale, people aren't going to be invested in what you're trying to accomplish. And without them on board, you don't get very far.
All right, explain this association you're with right now.
The
The job.
The job. Okay.
The job, okay.
Sorry. Which hat, Pat?
That one this time.
That's right. I have the pleasure of being able to work with Diamond Liddy at Life Builders of the Treasure Coast. And if you'll let me have a little bit of time here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of Life Builders.
Yes, please.
When Diamond was elected, and she's now been our public defender for 20 plus years, long time. We had, we were incarcerating a lot of people. We had a lot of overcrowding at the jails, and we had a lot of people in the jails that were struggling with issues that led them to end up being incarcerated. So that would include mental health issues, substance abuse, people who were living in poverty and struggling to help their families to survive however they could. And putting those people in jail did absolutely nothing to help them be able to change their life path. And it got very costly. Plus, we'd having to build more jails in order to keep these folks, housed, and it just wasn't effective. So when Diamond came into office and started looking at other alternatives, she ended up creating these diversion courts. And the diversion courts took people who fell into those categories and allowed them to go through a specialty court where their charges would be deferred as long as they followed a certain plan that was laid out by the judge. If it's substance abuse, for example, they had to go through treatment. They had to do community service hours, pretty much anything that the judge put out there, they needed to do. And it was very rigorous. It is very rigorous. And if they go through that process, then their adjudication will be withheld because they're on the right track now. They're typically in recovery. They've gone through parenting classes, if appropriate. They've gotten new jobs. They've done all these pieces so that they're not going to be people who are going to recidivate. And recidivate is just a fancy word for getting rearrested.
Up to 90% usually.
Yes, it's a huge, huge amount. And and then we also do that with our mental health courts. We also have a veteran court now, which has been hugely effective because a lot of the folks that are coming back from service have a unique set of challenges. And they don't belong in jail. They need treatment, and they need to have supports in place to be able to get them to a different spot.
Well, one of the things they were talking about doing when we were looking for more policemen for the schools, they were saying, let's get these vets just coming back. I mean, they're trained in combat. They're trained in weapons.
How unfortunate is that's a skill set you have to work in the schools, but that's a whole other conversation.
That's another battleground.
Yes, we will talk about
I'm thinking about the Blackboard Jungle back in those
God.
Sidney Poitier.
Yeah,
we have to put them back into society in meaningful positions. Okay.
Right. And so, we put those programs in place, and Diamond has done something that's relatively unique in that she has managed to collaborate with state's attorney's office, public defender's office, the jails. We actually have, as part of the public defender's office, a reentry program that's based out of the jails. They have a substance abuse treatment program in the jails. It's all part and parcel of being able to give people the skill sets that they need to change their path when they're released.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could go the next step? And I'm always one of these people that say, okay, here's a great idea. Now somebody do it.
You're a great visionary. Huh?
I'm too old to do these things. Why don't we set up a jail in either Martin or St. Lucie County where we're going to have a trade school?
They're already on it.
That we're going to teach them plumbing and electrical work and auto, service and stuff like that. That's what we need to do, and give them a certificate, a graduation certificate after they spent their 4 years or whatever.
There are some of those programs in place, not so much in those trade areas you're talking about, but they do have a culinary program. They actually have a landscape program that's there, and one of the challenges is always funding, and the state just had funding cuts for the reentry programs. So there's going to be, again, trying to identify where we can come up with funds, because those kinds of programs are really what's going to make a difference.
I heard in it, I'm not going to say what source it was because people don't like the sources that I listen to. In Texas, they closed 8 prisons because they're starting programs and they're having less people going to jail and more people into programs. And the state is saving a lot of money by closing these prisons.
Yeah.
See, we copped out after a while saying, well, we can't manage it, so let's sell the prisons to private sources.
Some did, yeah.
Because the government loses money. A classic example, during World War II, we had an oil refinery in New Jersey.
Mhm.
And we were refining oil for the war effort. And afterwards, they kept it. And every year, they lost more than $1 million. $3 million a year, I guess it was. And finally decided, wait, this is ridiculous. So they sold it off to a group. In the first year, the group didn't do anything, just continued to do their job and made $1 million. Same thing that the government was doing,
Isn't
but
that
there were so
interesting?
many overloads of people getting paid, and through the
Right.
the complexity of the system. When government gets involved, government doesn't seem to do it efficiently as well as private enterprise does. And I think that was the same rationale. We're losing a lot of money in prisons. Let somebody else, and they were making money.
Well, there are certainly jails in the state of Florida that are privatized.
Yes,
I think we're fortunate on the Treasure Coast not to have had that happen.
isn't there one in Okeechobee or someplace out there?
I admit to ignorance.
I think
been in
there's.
St. Lucie most of my career, so
Yeah,
that's where my
I think
expertise
there's one
is,
out there, but yeah, the point is, if we can re-educate someone,
Mhm.
that puts them on a path of success.
Yeah.
And not dependency.
Right.
It's almost like a workfare rather than a welfare kind of concept, right? Let's train them to do things that are going to make their lives better.
More importantly, what I really appreciate on the Treasure Coast is that we're working on preventative measures so people never end up in that boat. And that's completely separate from, what Diamond is doing. Well, actually, it really isn't, because she serves on the board for New Horizons. She really strives to help make sure that those people are getting services before they ever get to this stage.
Mhm.
I'm going to go back a little bit. I know you and I easily get off topic. So, we had these reentry programs in place. Well, one of the things that happened is that when somebody would get released, the thing that would get them was not the drug treatment. It wasn't seeing a mental health counselor, taking the parenting classes. The thing that would get them was they may not have any income, and so they would be homeless. But for that, one need being met, they are then derailed completely and end up back on the recidivism track.
Yeah.
So back in 2009, Diamond and a group of really dedicated, committed folks within the judicial system formed Life Builders. And the goal was to help fill those gaps. There were all these services that are out there. Most of them are publicly funded. Okay, we get those dollars that are coming down to help make these programs happen. But there were certain needs that couldn't be met through public dollars, such as helping somebody pay a deposit so they can get safely housed with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece that I haven't touched on yet is the child dependency cases. When somebody is struggling and they're in a situation where they're going through child dependency courts, and let's say that their kids have to go live with grandma. Well, there are rules that have to be managed. Each of those kids has to have their own bed. Well, in order to keep families together, are we really going to not help somebody or find a resource for somebody to get that bed? Instead, they have to go into the foster system.
Yeah, right.
There's a problem with that.
Yeah.
So we're able to even step in and fill that gap so that people can stay together as families, and then they can go through the diversion courts or reentry programs to make sure that the other pieces of their lives are falling into place.
Nice. Very nice.
So,
Very
I mean,
nice.
really being able to fill that gap is a critical component of it. And I think that they've made a huge difference to the point now where the demand, if you think about the number of people that we can serve, it's continuing to grow every year that the program has been in place. And, being able to serve everyone who has a need has become very challenging. I will tell you that we have a certain budget that we work within, and all but I think 8% of that goes towards direct services. Well, we're limited on funds, as we get further and further this year. So part of my job has been to identify what other grant opportunities are out there. How can we boost our fundraising activities to try and make sure we have the resources we need to continue to serve people.
And you just told me earlier that you've been too successful so far this year.
No such thing as too
No, you
successful.
know what I mean.
No, what I've been
You've
as far as
over-exceeded
My-
speeded up the
expenditure of the
goals. Yeah.
funds, yes.
Because
by
why?
talking
Why
ab-
did you exceed
Because
it?
I talk about the programs that are out there and how we can help fill those gaps, because
Exactly.
that's been an ongoing need in our
And
community.
you're making more happen too. That's my point.
Yeah. Well, and the other piece I think is really important. We alluded a little bit to the Council of Social Agencies, but for those of you who aren't familiar with that, in St. Lucie County, it's a group of about 57 different member health and human service organizations. We meet once a month to share resources, to problem solve, to identify gaps in services as a community. But we also have a listserv. So anytime somebody runs into a challenge, not any one service organization can be the be all end all for those people that they're assisting.
I'm looking for a wheelchair.
Yeah,
Bing.
exactly. That's a
And-
perfect
and
example.
gets out there and
And all of us as service providers have our own network. You don't think about advertising it because it's just a rare time that you may need it. And so you can send an email out to our listserv and you'll have responses back within 15, 20 minutes of check this out, check that out.
we have such talented
We do.
professionals in this area that go above and beyond their jobs. We just started some, I run that senior networking group.
Yes. Mhm.
We just started this past January, where every other month we're identifying one of our people that comes regularly to our association breakfast meetings as to what they do outside of their job.
Oh.
And we now give a little plaque. And
Ah,
we have a nice brand new assisted living community in St. Lucie West,
yes,
which
we
is
do.
called
Watercrest. Yeah.
It's providing the plaques.
Oh, wonderful.
And so Diane gets a plaque every other month. To give you an example and talk about the homeless,
Yes.
there's Butterfield Pharmacy here.
Yes.
Okay. Our first recipient, our second recipient was the owner of Butterfield Pharmacy, because we found out that David every year goes into the woods and inoculates flu shots to the homeless.
I did not know that.
Nobody knows that.
That's wonderful.
He's been doing this for years.
Yeah.
And he takes his own serum. He goes in there on Sundays
I
on
love
his
it.
day off.
I love it.
And then we honored Bill West
Oh,
from
okay.
Molly's house.
Sure.
What he does outside of
Oh.
his job is phenomenal. We honored Donna True,
Yes.
not because of her
Oh.
Alzheimer's Association.
No, from
She's
her
been
work.
on 20 honor flights.
Yeah, she's amazing.
We honored Christine Rigg,
Good.
who has her own companion service. She went during the hurricane. She went home, took care of her family, got everybody set, and went to a nursing home and volunteered for 4 days because they were short of help.
Yeah, that lady's amazing too.
These are
Heart of
people.
gold.
We've got such great people out there, and the resources are fantastic. The
And-
Treasure Coast is unique.
It really is.
It really
It,
is.
it really is. And we have to do this. I mean, we laugh and we talk about it takes a village. It truly does.
Yeah.
If we can continue to work piecemeal on people's issues, but until we work together and address the comprehensive challenge that they face, we're never going to break the cycle for people.
Mention the problem-solving section. And this is phenomenal. It is absolutely
awesome.
phenomenal.
And it's
And
funny,
you started
had-
it, by the way.
having grown up in a counseling environment, we would call them staffings. You'd have a challenge that came up you didn't know how to handle, so you'd sit down with your team and you go over it. So it's kind of that same concept here, except we call it takes a village.
Yeah, Daddy had some influence over this, didn't he?
Yeah, probably a little. It takes a village. So we all have our challenges. And oftentimes we're using 2-on-1 and they're a huge valuable resource for us. But there may be something that comes up and you go to 2-on-1 and they say, we don't have anything in our database. Sometimes it's as simple as, dental care. Glasses.
There you go.
Glasses has come up a
Glasses,
couple
glasses.
times in the last month. What are the resources available to help people get glasses replaced? And you kind of scratch your head. Well, then you send it out to the listserv and boom, boom, boom. We had, I think, 6 or 7 responses back of try this one, try this one, try this one. And, those things make a huge difference. So it takes a village.
Well, that happens at the meeting too, because you have a special
Well, that's
session.
more importantly.
And somebody says, I'm having this problem. I'm looking for, all of a sudden 6 or 7 people saying, well, we can take care of that piece. We can direct you to that
Exactly.
piece. And it's a problem solving, beautiful thing.
Well, Kate Priest. Kate,
Oh, yes.
Kate is the president this year, last 2 years
2
actually,
years.
of COSA. And we had Kylie Fuhr, who's with the homeless liaison for the school district. And
Yes.
she presented this week. And at the end, Kate said, I want to have everybody go through who's in the room. We had a big group. She said, and I want you to talk about how your organization might be able to help Kylie with the challenges that she's facing with the population she serves. Now, it took a huge chunk of the meeting, but it was fabulous because you started to get a sense of the overlap and all the different components of our village and how we can work together to address those unique and individual needs. And it's always astounding to me that people don't realize. So we had new folks that came in and they're sitting there with their chins on the floor watching this stuff happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it gives me goosebumps still.
I'll give you a name. It's like a foundation on steroids.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all pitching in to take care of this problem.
And
Wow.
It's frontline staff and it's frontline staff supervisors predominantly. So it's not, we don't get bogged down in the politics of the organizations, those pieces. We're about helping the individuals that are living in our community. So, and there's one other thing I want to do my brief little commercial for COSA, and then I really got to talk more about life.
All right, it's okay. All right, plenty of time.
No, because you and I, we get going and we get off topic. Council of Social Agencies, we've started, this will be our second annual, a September showcase of services. And we open this up to anybody in the community to come out. And then, so September 19th will be our day. And we were fortunate to have Martin Health Systems sponsor the event. So we'll be offering food and some other, opportunities for people there. Thank you, Martin Health System. We couldn't have done this without you. Where is this going to be? This is going to be held at Treasure Health, which formerly Treasure Coast Hospice. It's 5000 Dunn Road. It starts at 8:30.
Or the next meeting.
The next regular scheduled meeting, which is always the third Wednesday of the month, from 8:30 to 10. And everybody who's a member can set up a table. But it's a great opportunity for people in the community to come out, whether they be potential clients, people who are trying to help a neighbor. Come and see what's available. Come and see what the resources are.
Do you have a flyer?
Actually, Leslie is working on it right now, and we're hoping to have it out.
Send it to me and I'll blast it.
You bet. You're on the listserv. You should be getting it as soon as it hits.
Okay, I'll blast it out to those.
Perfect.
I got a couple people on email 700. Yeah.
Just a couple. Yeah. And again, that's part of the network that I absolutely love is we can get information out. I know that when something gets sent out from me and by the end of the day, it's coming back to me through my other connections. I'm like, yeah, we're hitting it. We're
the only thing I object to, and I'm going to put a plea out there for this. When people send multiple emails, do not put the listing on the website or on the email. Just do blind copy.
Blind copy, yes. Because it's amazing the stuff you'll get back from people who said, well, I found your email.
Yeah, I got in trouble with Constant Contact.
Yes.
Because I was sending emails out through Constant Contact. Somebody was forwarding those emails. I got a notice from them saying, you're violating a license here.
Because they were forwarding them.
Yes, because they were forwarding them. You had to go through that system.
Oh, I see. Because you have to blind
I dropped
copy.
That system.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need more challenges. We have
I
go
to my website is through GoDaddy.
Okay.
And I discovered they have a mail system, which is fabulous.
Good.
Because I'm sure there are on the other ones. I never discovered it. Let's say I blast out to 684 people.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day somebody says, I never got the email. It shows me who opened up the emails.
Right.
And I say, you opened it. It was delivered to you and you opened it. Oh, did I? Yes, because it's right there.
And we all have our senior moments.
So I can track that.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
track that. Yeah.
So I really want to encourage people to come and participate in that.
Excellent idea.
It's September 19th. If you want more information, it'll be up on our website as well, which is cosaslc.org.
Very good.
So
very good.
Really want people to come out and get a sense of what it is that our village is doing in this community. It's amazing.
And COSA's been around for how many years?
It's funny. Nobody can really give me an exact year. We know it was in early 1980s, but we have no records. I think the earliest records that we have is probably 2002, and that's because I went on a hunt to try and find it. Now I've got almost everything electronic, so hopefully we won't.
You mean Jim wasn't able to give you a date, a year?
No.
He's been around almost since the inception, isn't
Christy
he?
Key has been around for almost the inception. And she's still got paper records of stuff. So
oh my God.
That helped us a lot. And that helped us a lot. Be able to get.
You mean the lady who's retired, Christy? Yes.
Yes, who still serves on our board, who's amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
Who's not tech savvy at all. And
no.
Yeah, she's fabulous. So anyway, I think that's a key piece. And I think the more organizations that we can have participate in that network, the better we are as a community. And we talk about serving St. Lucie County. The reality is that most of our organizations serve the Treasure Coast. Right. And so that network of information is going out across the board. And Martin has their own networking organization, which meets, I think, the second Wednesday of the month instead of the third.
Which we meet.
Yeah, exactly. So, that is another way to get that word out. But there is a lot of people who attend both of those because of the critical nature of what we're doing in the community.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Excellent. All right, we're going to just stop because we're late and taking a break.
I told you we're Motor Mouse.
Do a little commercial, and Mike will handle that, and we'll be back in just a moment. right, we're back here with Stephanie Myers, and we're talking about. Oh,
Life,
go ahead.
life builders of the Treasure
Life
Coast.
builders. I got the life out and got stuck. We're talking about life here. No, we're not. We're life builders.
Yeah, it all is part and parcel. You know. how
Let's
that
talk about recidivism. I love that word. It's
Well, it's all, where everybody goes, huh?
yeah.
And recidivism is basically the rearrest rate once somebody has been imprisoned, for whatever reason, and what are the likelihood that they're going to go back into the system? About 2/3 of the people that have been incarcerated once will end up going back in. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense because all the same factors that are in place before they, offend the first time are still in place, and they may be much worse when that person is released. For example, when you have a criminal record, you think finding a job before was hard? Well, now you've got to redouble your efforts because there's a lot of employers out there that will not hire you. There's that what we call the big box on the job applications. Have you ever been? And that's a challenge. Plus, people who are living in poverty, they come out and they may have nothing. They have nothing, so they're right
they
back.
have something in the jail.
Well, that depends. That's where the reentry and the retraining programs come into play, and it's critical. If no amount of incarceration is going to fix somebody who has a mental health issue, who has substance abuse problems, who may have family challenges that have led to them, in desperation, doing whatever it was that they were charged with, and we have to have these programs in place. We cannot afford to jail everybody every time, and the other piece that I think is really interesting is that children whose parents have been incarcerated are more likely to also then continue that cycle of being incarcerated somewhat later in their lives. If you think about it, stability is what kids need. And if you have a parent who's ending up incarcerated, what happens to their stability? They may have to relocate to another family member's home. Right. So there's housing issues. Well, then, with that housing problem, we fortunately have gotten much better. The school districts are amazing, where a child can stay in their home school, even if they have to relocate and live with somebody else. So that's helped. But you lose an income. So now there's poverty issues that are going on even more so. And these kids you can't come in and think about math when you're worried about where's my next meal coming from? What's my little brother doing since, mom decided to backhand him last night, or
dad should have been here to help too.
Exactly.
Kind of
and
thing.
So we have to provide the opportunities for folks to be able to build their lives in a different manner. There, but for the grace of God, go we.
There's also the religious aspect.
Absolutely, it's a spiritual
we have
component.
a deacon in our church who participates and does the weekend in the prison, and the people that they've been counseling, the recidivism rate is like 16%.
It's amazing, considering you're looking at basically 2 out of 3.
I'll go to the religion thing. Maybe I'll get some points here. No, I think a lot of people start off that way and then discover, wait a minute, there's something that's been missing in my life, and once they get into that, they tend not to go back to prison.
Talk about stability and foundation.
And it's a confidence building, and it's a hope.
Exactly.
A belief and a hope.
And that belief, and we've found that even with kids, that if they have one adult who cares about them and provides them as a good role model and support, that builds protective factors in, so that those kids are more likely to be able to overcome, child adverse experiences, issues like having unstable housing because mom or dad is in jail, and really helping them overcome that. Well, that's true for everybody.
And we need to beef up our big brother, big sister programs, because there is the support. There is the role model. I have a friend whose kid had a kid who was just heading for jail. You're getting the package ready to get to him because he's going to need it when he gets there. And he turned his kid's life around. He's a productive member of society, has a family. He's doing extremely well because he had that role model guidance.
And Judy Miller has been amazing over the years with being able to build up Big Brothers Big Sisters. And they actually have, they're working with employers now and asking them to allow their employees to donate just 1 hour a week to be a big, as they call it, so that, we have greater opportunities. And that level of investment says a lot about the organization, about the businesses, and how
we
much
also
they
have the
give back.
foster grandparent programs through Area Agency on Aging, where the kid is struggling. He's in second grade. He doesn't understand math, and this aged person comes and sits with him in the class and helps them.
Yeah, and that's
Oh my
good.
God!
You start talking about the second generation interaction. I was just watching a video that was talking about having nursery school programs based at assisted living facilities, and the interactions between the seniors and the kids, and it helps the seniors be more active so that they're overcoming some of their physical challenges. They're more confident. There's more joy in their lives. So now you're getting me off on a whole nother topic.
No, wait.
But I think it is really
it's
important.
all together here.
It is all together.
It's just like, and it's an extension of a pet program. You bring a dog or a cat into a
Yes,
nursing home,
exactly.
it's people sitting listlessly, put them in their lap, they wake up, they tights, they pet the thing. And
It's
the same
enrichment.
thing with the little children.
Yeah, it's about
We used to have them come through a Halloween time where in the nursing home I worked at, and the nurses would follow the kids because everybody be in their wheelchairs in their doorway, and the kids would be giving them candy. Most of them were diabetic.
Oh,
And
God.
as the kids were going, the nurses went around following, taking up the candy again.
That's great.
But just to get it, they didn't
that
even
interaction.
have time to eat it because that would not have been good for them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that kids are so non-judgmental as well. Just
they're frank.
like pets are. They're very frank.
They say what they see and what they think.
Well, and I think, again, this is a whole nother conversation, but I do this. So is getting people to be less judgmental about people who have criminal records.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody may have made a poor choice, and I don't know about you, but there's been times in my life where I've made a choice and I wanted a second. Give me a mulligan on that one. Can I start this over? And that's all they want usually is an opportunity. I can almost guarantee you that everybody who comes out who's had some sort of incarceration period, they want their lives to be different. And they want to have the opportunities, and they're motivated. And we have to give them those opportunities. You and I have talked a lot about, you can't give somebody a fish. You need to teach them how to fish.
Exactly.
Because there's a huge amount of confidence and self-respect. They become better parents when they're in that boat, and they aren't stuck.
But the sad thing is somebody may have been in jail for 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
35 years old when they
At
went
that
to
point,
prison.
that's prison, yes.
They come out at 75, and a week later they're back in because they go into a convenience store with a gun, say, "Give me your money," and call the police. And they set the gun down, and the police come in, and that's an armed robbery because they want to go back.
Because they're afraid of the world that's out there.
That's
and
right. They
it's
got to
so
go back
difficult.
to where they were because that was what
Their
protected
comfort
them.
level. Yep.
And that's such a sad state of events.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
See, I would put a guy like that in a nursery school and have him help with the kids.
Yeah, I'm thinking the parents might have an issue with that because of the judgment that goes
I
along
know,
with
but,
this mess.
every time we look at children and every time we look at education in colleges today, that's our future.
Yeah.
Those children are our future. They're going to take over our jobs. They're going to take over our world. And we really need to prepare them, not to indoctrinate them like some kids are getting indoctrinated,
Yes.
but to prepare them.
We want them to have critical thinking skills. We want them to consider and look at opportunities and
We went
take
through
advantage
this through the beatnik generation, the hippies. They were going to go
I'm
to
sure
hell
I'm
in a handbasket.
too young for that, you understand?
But these are corporate leaders today.
Yeah.
They thought nobody would ever surface. Well, suddenly they realized it would be fun to make money. They're very bright kids, and they got in. They did it. They're still doing a great job.
Absolutely.
And so I have faith in the children because that they're going to clean up some of our mess.
Well, and going back to one of the things that Life Builders does that I think is, for me, one of the most impactful is somebody's coming out. They work with their reentry specialists who help them overcome some of their challenges, whether that be getting an ID, helping them identify resources and finding a place to live. Well, they also, let's say they get a job, but all but for having a pair of work boots, they have a job. Well, that's something that Life Builders can do. So it's small investment, but it's a huge return because these individuals are then going to go out and get jobs, which reduces the likelihood that they're going to recidivate. It means that they're going to be successful. They're trying to rebuild their self-esteem. They're developing skill sets that are going to allow them to be successful more long-term. So something as simple as getting work clothes or work boots can help change the life of somebody who's on the right path.
Let me make a suggestion. Again, I throw out little seeds and you make them grow. Churches.
Yes.
Now, our church has two different funds. The Rectors has a fund, and we have another thing called the True Fund. It's an acronym. And if somebody says, "Look, I'm on the job. My car broke down. I need $200 to fix the car. I'm going to get fired," they will write a check to the shop for the
Beautiful.
repair or to the utility company.
Yep.
And there are a lot of churches out there that have these little funds to buy a pair of boots
Absolutely.
for somebody. So somebody ought to, you get one of your staff members to call around and get an agent to get a network of those.
You're talking to her. Yeah.
Yes, with a
Yeah.
list.
Yes.
Okay. Put All Saints Church in Jensen Beach on your
Absolutely.
top list. Because they're out there.
Well, and the thing that's nice about being able to work together with partners is that you avoid that duplication.
Yeah.
We have people out there who have, been helped through crisis, through chronic problems with crisis interventions, which means that they have gotten dependent upon the system. The first time you help somebody, there's a sense of appreciation. If you have the same problem and you come back to help them again, well, then there's sort of this sense of anticipation. And the further you get into this, you eventually end up with a sense of entitlement that goes along with this. And, we want to help people if they've got a chronic problem, such as not having enough money to live on, we need to fix the problem, not just address the symptom. And it's hard because places don't, we're focused on, well, let's help them get out of this pinch. We don't think about the longer term. And it makes us feel good to be able to give back and help with that. But being able to communicate together in that community sense is critical. And see, I would love to have more churches, and I'm going off on COSA now, at the COSA meetings, because they are serving a lot of these same folks.
You did have St.
Vincent de Paul is still there. The district joined. So we have representatives there.
Very good.
And they're huge proponents.
Why do I do bingo? Let me just digress for a moment here. I did one at a church down in Hope Sound on Cove Road, and we did big time. We realized that we were both on the vestry, the board, and that we had this huge budget, and just a little dinky part of it went for outreach.
Mm-hmm.
And I get upset when the church says, okay, we're going to give money to Nigeria when your neighbor next door is hungry.
Amen.
Let's do both.
Yep.
Anyway, we went to present this, and the vestry was very all stiff, and there was one woman on the board, and the guy said, we're not going to approve, this is gambling. And I said, how many of you buy a lottery ticket? All the guys raised their hand. And the woman said, well, I used to be married to a Baptist minister. I'll never gamble. I said, wait a minute. Are you not an administrator in Martin County Schools? She said, yes. I said, your salary comes from gambling, from the lottery. She said, all right. So we started this thing, and in 6 years, we raised $75,000. And my point is this, we had this lady come to me one time at a bingo. She said, we need some money. I said, what do you do? She said, we make little kits, baby kits, blankets, diapers,
pacifiers, and whatever.
Quilts, whatever. And we give them to indigent mothers. Sometimes they'll take the baby home in the little diaper that the
only
hospital
one.
just gave them.
Yeah.
And then they make bereavement kits also.
Oh,
They have a
wow.
little blue sleeve and a little yellow, pink sleeve, and a little stuffed toy. So they take that to the mother, and the mother takes that toy home. They
That's
remember
awesome.
little baby Jesus that died.
Yeah.
And she said, we frequently get a call from a fabric store saying, we're having a big sale. Can you get some money? And I said, how much do you need? And she said, well, they save pieces that are like 3 inches by 3 inches because that can go on a quilt.
Yeah.
They're very frugal. There were 4 of them. She said, we need $500. I said, I'm sorry, we can't give you $500. The only thing we can give you is $1,000.
Love it. She probably first time she's ever heard that response.
And they staff hospitals from Fort Pierce to West Palm Beach.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And this is all just giving. Some lady sitting
See?
there, and
I
that's
didn't
their
know
mission.
that. And that's a resource that we need to know about because that happens frequently. Having Treasure Health, they have their kids programs to help and mothers to help with that grief and loss. Well, what a wonderful resource. And hopefully if they're in the hospitals, they already know about it.
They should, yes. But
new to me,
those,
so I filed
like
right away.
I said, there's so many things
Yeah.
going on out there, and I've been so blessed with this radio program because I've talked to so many different people and all the wonderful things that are happening in our community. And most people don't understand what's going on, and the level of dedication and sincerity is unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's really hard, I know, for people who have, funds to be able to donate to decide who am I going to, give my charitable dollars to. And I think it's important to know that you spread them out. You find things that you are passionate about, maybe 2 or 3, and those are the organizations that you really try and support.
Mhm.
And you do your vetting process. Who's really making a difference out there?
Yes.
Who's having the greatest impact, and so that your dollars are having the greatest impact. And that's one of the reasons I really feel strongly about the work that Life Builders does. It's very proactive. It's trying to fill those gaps so that the programs that already exist can really help people change their lives. And people can donate on our website. And it's amazing how even a small contribution, I have people who do $10 a month.
Look at these GoFundMe funds.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. We had a fire in one of our buildings. There were 4
Oh.
units in the building. And make a long story short, one unit was actually destroyed, but there was a lot of smoke damage and everything from the others. This happened a couple months ago. They're still not in.
Oh,
And they're still trying to clean up and everything. But this one gal started a GoFundMe
Mhm.
account where was the worst part in. I mean, she's got about $10,000, $12,000 in there already.
which will allow them to get back.
Plus, she has
onto their feet.
insurance too, you know.
Good.
So that's the extra stuff that's
Yeah.
going to help.
And that's probably done $20 at a shot. You get enough people out there to make that small contribution, and you can help.
Actually, we had a potluck lunch at our clubhouse for the victims, and everybody brought gift certificates
That's
and
awesome.
stuff. That was sweet. It was really sweet.
Yeah, and it's amazing what you can do at a local level, even in small amounts, and you can change people's lives. It's fabulous.
Yeah, and that takes us back to the '60s when something like that happens.
Are you living in the '60s today, Pat?
Mentally. I still feel I'm that young.
You are.
Well, no, but
At heart.
at heart, well, the heart's not so good either. In the mind, I guess. Yeah, you know, it's reaching out. But we don't have much of a chance to reach out. It's like we have patriotism when we have a World Trade Center crushed, and then we put a flag up. You know, we should have been flying that flag for a long time if that's what we want to do. We have to keep that.
It's a different.
We're
paced
not
world.
alone. That's it.
Yeah.
We tend to isolate ourselves now with this technology.
Mhm. Oh, I agree.
You know, and we're missing out on such wonderful contacts with people.
Yeah, because that's really what keeps us all going. It's all about the communication and the interaction. And
Yeah.
where people talk about being independent, well, we're all interdependent.
Thank you. I like that word.
And it's, you know, it's not that we're dependent. We're all connected, and we all need to stay connected in order to have, you know, be happier and healthier in this world.
Well, I warn people about retirement because what happens
You mean
is,
you know about retirement?
no, I thought I retired. I just stopped getting paid.
Oh, there you go.
But,
Okay.
you know, I see like a guy who's chairman of the board of some place and he retires, and a week later he wakes up and he says, "Oh my God, I'm a nothing.
Yeah.
I'm nobody anymore.
Yeah.
I'm nothing." No, now you're in a new life.
Yeah,
and
and you
it's-
pick a new path.
And everything we do, and you do it the same way. And I'm going to give you the label. I want you to use it. Everything you do is an adventure.
Yes, it is.
And whenever life deals me lemons, I put sugar in it. I make lemonade
Love it.
because I go with the alcoholic's creed. I'm not an alcoholic, but there are certain things I can't change.
Sure.
Okay, I'm just going to have to accept them. The things I can change, get out of my way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And I wish more people would adopt that. Well, I'm not going to give away my services free. I need to be paid if I'm going to volunteer. No, why are you volunteering? What are you volunteering for? On my bucket list, there are 2 things I haven't done yet. Number 1, I want to work for Habitat.
Oh.
Not to pound nails, but
Yeah.
to go around to businesses and get money.
Oh, I need to. Yeah. You willing to do that in St. Lucie County? Because I got connections
See?
for you there.
And
Actually,
number-
I know who the people at Martin County as well.
Yeah, I
so
know.
you
He
need to
comes
do that.
Costa too.
Yeah.
And number 2, I want to drive that little golf cart at the
Ah,
hospital.
Okay.
I don't know how many
Volunteers
times.
do that.
Yeah, it's a 4-hour shift. I already found that out. I used to have to go to the hospital and evaluate patients, and I had to park somewhere near
Oh yeah.
near Okeechobee.
Right.
You know, to get to
Far out
in the
there,
rain. And every
Uphill
time
both
I
ways.
saw that little thing, oh, it was great. These little old ladies running through the rain. I thought, what a service to provide.
Mhm.
You know, those are the kinds of helping things I think you'd feel good about. I know I would.
And interacting with people keeps us
Yeah,
going.
right,
It really
right, right.
does. Absolutely.
And there's people say, I don't want to volunteer. Well, you know, what do you want to do? You want to just, I'll tell you what, take a little bag of bread that you had last night and break it up and go sit in the park and feed the pigeons.
Yep.
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's not for me.
People get really isolated. And I think it is true that, especially in our world where you have 2-income households, people's self-esteem is really wrapped up in the work that they do.
There you go.
And then when you retire, you're like, well, we all need to have a purpose, whatever that purpose
The
can
next
be.
volunteer that comes your way, have them start calling the churches
I'm on it.
and find out what
I'm on
money and how you do it and who the contact person is and say, here's your job.
Yep.
Go
Love
for
it. Love it. And that network, again, it goes a huge way,
Yeah.
you know, because then we can also tell them about all the other resources that are out there. And they,
Exactly.
instead of just paying a bill, they can say, hey, why don't you contact this organization, because they can help you never have to be in crisis again. They can help you with a long-term plan that you develop
Mhm.
and identify opportunities so that you can change your life path as well.
We're almost out of time. You just gave us.
I told you,
a couple.
We go on and on and on.
All right, I want you to give these people information out there about contacts and
Okay.
stuff.
If people have a need and they've had some kind of contact with the 19th Circuit, so that includes all the court systems on the Treasure Coast, that can be care dependency, it can be diversion courts, or it can be any traditional type of contact. Interestingly enough, I didn't mention this earlier, victims. We had a lady whose tires were slashed. Well, that meant her car was not operable, so she couldn't get to work. Life Builders was able to step in and help with that repair so that she could then get back to employment. So some kind of connection with the 19th Circuit. They need to be in that low income category because those are the folks we're trying to fill those gaps. So if somebody has other resources, we want them to utilize those. But if they go to lifebuilderstc.com, the application process is right online. They can go through it that way. If somebody wants to help support us, it's another critical piece, and they can target those dollars for what they want. They can go to that same website, which is lifebuilderstc.com, and be able to help us continue our mission. Now, I'm all about volunteers.
How about a phone number?
Yep, it was my next one. They can call me at 462-2400, and that will, 2042. 462-2042, and we would love to have some support out there and being able to approach churches or help me with paperwork or do any of those kinds of things.
Beautiful.
Would love it.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, again for another wonderful time with me. I
love talking with you.
Here. This is great.
Thanks, Pat.
We have another very interesting guest on our program for next. So we'll see you then on the forum.